Time is not a line, but a dimension, like the dimensions of space. If you can bend space, you could bend time also. And if you knew enough, and could move faster than light, you could travel backwards in time and exist in two places at once. It was my brother Stephen who told me that one day while standing on his head. At first, I didn't understand what he meant, but maybe he didn't explain it very well. He was already moving away from the imprecision of words. But I began then to think of time as having a shape, something you could see, like a series of liquid transparencies, one laid on top of another. You don't look back a long time, but down through it, like water. Sometimes this comes to the surface, sometimes that, sometimes nothing. Nothing goes away. Before Toronto, we didn't really live anywhere, or we lived in so many places it was hard to remember them. We spent a lot of time driving, over back roads or along two-lane highways up north, curving past hill after hill with the white lines going down the middle of the road, and the telephone poles along the sides, tall ones and shorter ones, the wires looking as if they were moving up and down. I sit by myself in the back of the car, among the suitcases and coats and the cardboard boxes of food. My brother Stephen sits in the front seat, beside the partly opened window. He smells of peppermint lifesavers. Sometimes he throws up into paper bags, or beside the road if my father can stop the car in time. He gets car sick and I do not. It's his only weakness that I know of. When it gets to the end of the day, we stop again and put up our tent. Our sleeping bags are khaki and thick and lumpy and always feels a little damp. How long did we live this way? Like nomads at the far edges of the country. The school we are sent to is some distance away. The name of it is Queen Mary Public School. I have to wear a skirt because girls can't wear pants to school. I'm not used to this, or to sitting still at a desk. Before long, a girl called Carol Campbell makes friends with me. In a way she has to, because she's the only school bus girl in my grade. The children who take the school bus are considered a little foreign, and are in danger of finding themselves without a partner when the bell rings and it's time to line up. So Carol sits beside me on the school bus, holds my hand in line, plays with me during recess, and eats her lunch beside me. I know better than to speak to my brother during these times, or to call his or any boy's attention to me. Boys get teased for having younger sisters, or sisters of any kind, or mothers. It's like having new clothes. If he has to go anywhere with me and my mother, he walks ahead of us or crosses to the other side of the street. If he's teased about me, he will have to fight some more. For me to contact him or even call him by name would be disloyal. I understand these things and do my best. Carol invites me to go to church with her family. This is the first time I've been inside a church. There's a high ceiling with the lights shaped like morning glories hanging down on chains. I watch what Carol does and stand up when she stands up, sits when she sits. During the songs, she holds the hymn book open and points, but I don't know any of the tunes. I bow my head during the prayers, but I refuse to pray, though I don't know why I do this. Later that night, as I was going to bed, I looked out my window at the stars, where they usually are, only now they no longer look cold and remote. Now they look watchful. In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow. loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. At 11 o'clock, we stand for 3 minutes of silence, heads bowed, eyes closed, listening to the hush and the rustle of our own bodies. We are the dead. I keep my eyes closed, trying to feel pious and sorry for the dead soldiers who died for us, whose faces I can't imagine. I have never known any dead people. Carol is fascinated with breasts. Both of her older sisters have them by now. They tell Carol there are some things she's too young to understand, and then they tell these things to her anyway. Carol, her voice lowered, passes on the truth. The curse is when blood comes out between your legs. We don't believe her. She produces evidence. A sanitary pad, filched from Purdy's wastebasket. On it is a brown crust, like dried gravy. I haven't thought much about grown-up women's bodies before, but now these bodies are revealed in their true, upsetting light. Alien and bizarre, hairy, squashy, monstrous. This frightens us. Whatever has happened to them, bulging them, softening them, causing them to walk rather than run, as if there was some invisible leash around their necks, holding them in check. Whatever it is, it may happen to us too. We examine our legs and underarms for sprouting hairs, our chests for swellings, but nothing is happening. So far, we are safe. For the first time, my brother has a secret. I'm the only one he's told, and I have been double sworn not to tell anyone else. The secret is that he has a girlfriend. Even when we are alone, I'm not allowed to refer to her by her name, only by her initials, which are SM. I know who she is. Her real name is Susie Miles. She has straight brown hair with bangs, and she's of ordinary size. There's no magic about her that I can see, or any abnormality. I'd like to know how she's done it, this trick with my brother, that's turned him into a stupider, more nervous identical twin of himself. Knowing this secret makes me feel important in a way, but it's a negative importance. I can know because I don't count. I feel singled out, but also protective of him, because for the first time in my life I feel responsible for him. He is at risk, and I have power over him. He is at my mercy, and I don't want it. I want him back the way he was, unchanged, invincible. The girlfriend doesn't last long. After a while, nothing more is heard of her. My brother makes fun of me again, or ignores me. He is back in charge. Steven says he's interested in the problems of two-dimensional universes. He wants me to imagine what a three-dimensional universe would look like to someone who is perfectly flat. If you stood in a two-dimensional universe, you would only be perceived at the point of intersection. You'd be perceived as two oblong discs, two two-dimensional cross-sections of your own feet. Then there are five-dimensional universes, seven-dimensional ones. I try very hard to picture these, but I can't seem to get past 3. Time is a dimension, he says. You can't separate it from space. Space-time is what we live in. He says there are no such things as discrete objects, which remain unchanged, set apart from the flow of time. He says that time can be stretched or shrunk, and that it runs faster in some places than in others. He says that if you put one identical twin in a high-speed rocket for a week, he'd come back to find his brother 10 years older than he is himself. I say I think that would be sad. My brother smiles. He says that if we knew enough, we could walk through walls as if they were air. If we knew enough, we could go faster than light, and at that point, space would become time, and time would become space, and we would be able to travel through time, back into the past. I know more about my father than I used to know. I know he wanted to be a pilot in the war, but could not because the work he did was considered essential to the war effort. Maybe this is why he always drives so fast. Maybe he's heading for takeoff. I know he grew up on a farm in the backwoods of Nova Scotia, where they didn't have running water or electricity. This is why he can build things and chop things. He did his high school courses by correspondence, sitting at a kitchen table and studying by the light of a kerosene lamp. He put himself through university by working in lumber camps and cleaning out rabbit hutches, and was so poor that he lived in a tent in the summers to save money. All this is known, but unimaginable. But also, I wish I did not know it. I want my father to just be my father, not a separate person with an earlier, mythological life of his own. Knowing too much about other people puts you in their power. They have a claim on you. You are forced to understand their reasons for doing things, and then you are weakened. A girl from my school is found murdered at an abandoned silo. I did not know her personally, but I've seen her at the schoolyard before. Such things are not supposed to happen in Toronto, where people leave their back doors unlocked. But they do happen, it seems. A policeman shows up in our class one day to talk to us. He tells us that we have nothing to worry about, that they will soon find the one who did it, but at the same time warns us not to talk to any strangers. After the first shock, nobody at school says much about her. Even Carol does not want to talk about her. It's as if the girl has done something shameful herself by being murdered. So she goes to that place where all things go that are not mentionable, taking her blonde hair, her Angora sweater, her ordinariness with her. She stirs up something, like dead leaves. I think of a doll I had once, with white fur on the border of her skirt. I remember being afraid of this doll. I dream that our house has burned down. Nothing of it remains. Blackened stumps dot the place where it's been, as if there has been a forest fire. A huge mountain of mud rises beside it. I settle back into the familiar perspective, the backs of heads, the ears, and past them the white line of the highway. This summer, we are in a rented cabin on the north shore of Lake Superior. The north smells different from the city. Clearer, thinner. You can see farther. There are more pines, the air cools, and the sky is an icier blue. There's a wide beach, and to one end of it, a colony of boulders. I've forgotten about these things, but here they are again. And when I see them, I remember them. I know them, and I greet them as if they are home.
I was dancing with my darling to the Tennessee waltz when an old friend I happened to see introduced her to my loved one, and while they were dancing, my friend stole my sweetheart from